Imagine stepping outside on what seems like a perfectly normal Tuesday afternoon, looking up into the sky and seeing a second sun. It's completely silent, blindingly bright, and it is growing larger by the second. Now, this isn't a scene from some big-budget sci-fi movie. This is the very real, absolutely terrifying opening sequence to the most devastating day in the history of our planet. Today, we're stepping back in time to witness a real-life cinematic tragedy of an unimaginable scale. So what if that second sun didn't bring warmth, but instead set the entire world on fire? In a matter of literal moments, a peaceful, incredibly vibrant Earth was turned into an inescapable inferno, abruptly wiping out 160 million years of majestic reign. To truly grasp the sheer, terrifying scale of this horror, we have to rewind the clock. We need to go back to the peaceful morning of the impact, right before the sky fell. Part 1. Dawn of the Last Day, 66 million years ago. Picture the late Cretaceous period. It was this lush, green paradise, completely oblivious to its impending doom. There were no cities, no humans, no pollution, just sprawling forests of ferns and pines and the deep, silent blue of the oceans. The air was warm and life was absolutely thriving in this perfectly balanced ecosystem. And look at who was running the domain. You had the T-Rex, the ultimate apex predator, packing a bone-crushing 8,000-pound bite force. You had Triceratops basically acting as heavily armored tanks wandering the plains. Towering Titanosaurs were these gentle giants grazing way up in the canopy, while massive pterosaurs were the undisputed winged kings of the sky. I mean, they were at the absolute peak of their evolution. It really seemed like their glorious empire was going to last forever. But high above that sprawling green canopy, a strange sign appeared. A silent, growing light in the sky. To the dinosaurs grazing down below, it probably just looked like a bright star reflecting the morning sun. They obviously had no idea what it was. I mean, brains the size of walnuts hadn't exactly evolved to comprehend the cosmos, right? But this glowing dot was literally a cosmic death sentence, hurtling through the vacuum of space, growing larger and brighter with every single heartbeat. Part 2. The Sky Falls. The arrival of Chicxulub. As this massive rock slammed into Earth's atmosphere, the extreme friction turned it into a roaring ball of fire, thousands of times brighter than the sun. The birds stopped singing, the gentle giants paused. For a fleeting second, the entire planet seemed to hold its breath. It was moving at a staggering 72,000 kilometers per hour. To put that into perspective, that is 20 times faster than a speeding bullet. The Chicxulub asteroid was essentially a chunk of space rock larger than Mount Everest, measuring somewhere between 10 to 15 kilometers wide. It was so massively huge and moving so incredibly fast that it literally shoved the atmosphere out of the way, creating a blinding, terrifying flash of light. Part 3. The Moment of Impact. A Cosmic Death Sentence. In a fraction of a second, this flying mountain slammed into the shallow tropical waters of what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. But here's the thing, it wasn't just the sheer size that made it so deadly, it was the angle. It hit at a lethal 60-degree angle. This specific trajectory acted exactly like a shotgun blast, perfectly designed to maximize atmospheric debris, instantly vaporizing rock and water and hurling it straight up into the atmosphere and beyond. The energy released? It was equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima atomic bombs going off all at once. 10 billion. Every single weapon ever created by human hands is completely insignificant compared to this. It's truly one of the most powerful explosions to happen in our solar system since it first formed. The immediate destruction right at ground zero was just incomprehensible. It instantly blasted out a crater 180 kilometers wide and 20 kilometers deep. The localized heat spiked to over 10,000 degrees Celsius. That instantly vaporized the rock, the water, and absolutely any living creature within thousands of kilometers. And the seismic activity, it triggered massive earthquakes measuring magnitude 11 or higher, causing the entire planet to violently shake for hours. And that initial impact triggered a rapid-fire ripple of absolute annihilation. First, a supersonic shockwave blasted outward, completely flattening entire forests in the blink of an eye. Second, intense thermal radiation shot across the landscape at the speed of light, instantly igniting anything even slightly flammable. And third, the impact forcefully displaced the ocean, creating these terrifying mega tsunamis over a kilometer high that raced outward to completely scrub the coastlines clean. But the nightmare wasn't just happening on the ground. Trillions of tons of debris had been blasted all the way up into space, and as Earth's gravity pulled it all back down, it re-entered the atmosphere as molten glass beads, which scientists call tektites. This global rain of fire superheated the air to a suffocating 1,000 degrees. For a few agonizing hours, the entire planet essentially turned into a giant broiler oven, sparking global wildfires that literally burned the world alive. Part 4. The endless winter. The sun goes out. So as those horrific global fires eventually started to die down, a new, much slower killer took hold. The visceral, explosive panic of that first day faded into a cold, bleak, and deeply somber reality. The deafening noise of destruction was replaced by this eerie, deadly silence. Trillions of tons of pulverized rock and soot from the burning forests completely choked the sky. But the truly fatal blow was the sulfur. The asteroid just happened to hit a massive deposit of sulfate-rich gypsum. That vaporized into sulfur aerosols high in the upper atmosphere, creating an absolutely impenetrable cloud. The result? An astonishing 99% of all sunlight was blocked. The world was plunged into a pitch-black, endless night. Because the sunlight was totally choked out, global temperatures absolutely plummeted to negative 26 degrees Celsius or negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Even the lush, steamy tropical regions dropped well below freezing. This created what scientists call an impact winter, a catastrophic deep freeze that these giants of the era, whether cold-blooded or warm-blooded, simply were not built to survive. The timetable of this disaster was just relentless. In minutes, you had the reign of fiery tektites. Within hours, mega tsunamis and global wildfires wiped out the coasts and the forests. Give it a few weeks, and the sky was utterly blacked out by sulfur and ash. And for years after that, severe temperature drops locked the Earth in this brutal, agonizingly slow freeze of an impact winter. Part 5. Aftermath and Extinction. The food chain breaks. This geological nightmare naturally triggered a complete biological collapse. With the planet plunged into absolute darkness, the rules of life on Earth fundamentally changed overnight, triggering a fatal domino effect. Without sunlight, photosynthesis stopped dead in its tracks. With no photosynthesis, land plants and marine phytoplankton died off incredibly fast. Without the plants, the giant herbivores, like your triceratops and those huge titanosaurs, they starved. And once the herbivores were gone, mighty apex predators like the T-Rex had absolutely nothing left to hunt. Eventually, they starved too. And the horror definitely didn't stop at the shoreline. It extended deep into the oceans, largely thanks to acid rain. All that immense sulfur in the atmosphere mixed with water to form sulfuric acid. This rained down for years, turning the surface of the oceans literally as acidic as vinegar. It completely dissolved the shells of marine life, wiping out incredible sea creatures like ammonites, and totally destroying the very foundation of the marine food web. The giant sea reptiles, like the mosasaurs, they just had no chance. When the dust finally settled, the ultimate toll was staggering. 75% of all life on Earth was extinguished. Every single non-avian dinosaur, all the massive marine reptiles, and those giant flying pterosaurs were wiped from existence forever. But, crucially, 25% of species actually survived. So you have to wonder, who exactly made it through the apocalypse? Well, the rules of survival flipped entirely. Before the impact, size and strength made you a king. After the impact, being massive was a literal death sentence. The survivors shared very specific traits. First, they were small. Almost nothing over 25 kilograms survived. They had the ability to burrow underground or hide out in caves to escape the fire and the freezing cold. They lived in freshwater, which was way less affected than the acidic oceans. They were versatile scavengers who could eat pretty much anything: insects, dead roots, rotting meat, and crucially, they had much slower metabolisms. Slowly, over many, many years, the ash finally settled. The sun broke back through the clouds. But it shined down on a dramatically altered planet. The dinosaurs were gone, leaving behind an incredibly empty world. But this massive ecological void offered a blank canvas. And those tiny, rat-like creatures that had spent millions of years scurrying and hiding in the shadows of the dinosaurs, the early mammals, they finally stepped out into the light. With the giant predators gone, mammals rapidly evolved, exploding in size, diversity, and intelligence. Which brings us to a final, pretty profound thought. The fall of the dinosaurs was our greatest fortune. It's an incredible, almost chilling irony when you think about it. If that asteroid had just missed Earth, or if its trajectory was off by just a fraction of a degree, dinosaurs would likely still rule today. Our mammalian ancestors would have remained tiny, hiding in the dark. The utter tragedy of the dinosaurs is quite literally the only reason human beings exist to tell their story today. So the next time you look up and see a bird, the only living, breathing descendants of the dinosaurs, just take a second to remember the incredibly fragile, chaotic chain of events that led to you being here today.